It's not an implausible theory that some ghost masons got out there in that school parking lot specifically to sabotage that car because it had been responsible for the entrapment of several entities over the years. So there are a couple of movies that got me into cars. American Graffiti is one, Christine is one, and Ghostbusters is one. Ghostbusters and Harold and Maude are probably the two films that got me so very much invested in funeral cars. And the Ecto-1, the real car, is a 1959 millimeter Futura combination. What a combination was is it was used as a hearse and as an ambulance because a lot of times smaller towns couldn't afford to have an ambulance service, so the funeral home did it. And they often had panels with the Landau bar that would go over the rear window for when it's used as one or the other. The combos would have jump seats in it, and the rollers for the caskets would flip upside down so that it would be smooth for the gurney to go in, or you could flip it back and roll the casket in. So that's what Ecto-1 actually was. Now, growing up loving that film as much as I did, I really wanted to do an Ecto-1. The hearse community doesn't really like Ecto-1s too much. A lot of cars get cut up and turned into Ecto-1s, so I was very hesitant to do it for years and years and years. Then, around the time that I started going to DragonCon in 1998, and I would see Ghostbusters every now and then, and eventually I decided I was going to learn what the pack was built out of, because I like building props. I've built lightsabers and all sorts of stuff over the years. So I found this website, gbfans.com. And through that, I found the plans for the Proton Pack. So great. Built the Proton Pack, built a suit, went to Walmart in it one night, just randomly, not Halloween or anything. Someone asked if it was a bomb, kind of got freaked out. So I was going to leave, but I was in line to check out, and there was a cop in line. And the cop looked at me and said, "Thank you for all you do. I haven't seen any ghosts the whole time I've been here." So that kind of sold me on the idea. And so I started a group called the Georgia Ghostbusters, which I have a little tattoo of. And we do charity events and community events and stuff like that. We go to DragonCon every year. We have our own thing we call PKE Surge, which is a sort of a mini convention for Ghostbusters in DragonCon, where we have panels, we have a party, we have an awards dinner, we do the parade. This year, actually, in the DragonCon parade, they capped us at 4 Ectomobiles because the year that Ernie Hudson came, we had 9. And that's a little excessive. But they always cap our group at 100 marchers. And this year was the first year we gave out every parade ribbon. We had 100 Ghostbusters in the parade and 3 Ectos. Eventually, I decided I wanted to build my own Ecto-1. And at the time, I had a 83 S&S, Cadillac S&S hearse, Landau hearse. It was a very dark green. And what I wanted to do, my vision, was Dan's original vision for the car in the film, which was a much more sinister car than what appeared on film. He wanted it to be black and purple, and he wanted the lights to be clear and everything to be kind of brushed steel or brushed aluminum on the roof. What happened was they started building that car, and that's actually the car, the original car that you see roll up when they're like, "You can't park that here," and it's got the drowning cat siren and the green lights on top. What they realized was almost every shot of the car was at night, so a black car wouldn't read. So they decided to go with the ambulance theme instead and paint it red and white, and that's the Ecto that we all know and love. So since I had a dark hearse, I went and I got a clear light bar, put logos on it. At the time, we hadn't come up with the custom Georgia logo that's in the shape of the state, so I just went with a light green, because green and green. There wasn't a lot of creative process going on with that one. But, and that hearse, just like my first hearse, also a green hearse. Don't own green hearses, kids. They get T-boned. That's exactly what happened. It got T-boned. I ran it in the DragonCon parade and a couple of local parades and was on the way to work, and a lady ran a red light and T-boned me in a Volkswagen New Beetle. And it knocked the engine out of the New Beetle. It hit right at the A-pillar. Apparently, they were trying to go to the hospital, was the story. And they got to go because it broke the driver's collarbone. And the cops said that had I been in any other vehicle that wasn't as structurally rigid as the hearse was, I would probably be dead. So a hearse saved a life. Anyhow, that was the first Ecto that I built. The second one was in 2008. The car was a 2007. It's a 2007 Dodge Magnum. At the time, Everyone wanted to build a Dodge Magnum Ecto, but no one had done it. And so I ended up being the first one to do one, which nobody cares about. I did the first one. My friend Kevin Henry, who lived in Colorado, built one about a month after mine was on the road. And so a lot of people credit him with the first one because I'm not one that usually self promotes very much. Kevin was. And so he would be like, "Oh, we're taking the Ecto out. Look at all these pictures of my awesome Ecto." And that's just not me. I do my thing and kind of stay more low key. Great story about Kevin's Ecto though. He decided to go up to New York to the firehouse to get pictures and then go back to Colorado. And on the way through Virginia, past Virginia, he decided to see how close he could get to the White House in DC. The answer is about a block away. And Secret Service stopped him and they said, "Hey, don't you think it's kind of dumb to be driving a car with things marked radioactive on it this close to the White House?" And his response, "Don't you think it's kind of dumb to think someone with a bomb would mark it on top of their car and go this close to the White House? Maybe that says radioactive on it to distract you from the uranium I have in my butt." Secret Service don't have good senses of humor about things like that. And so, allegedly, again, I wasn't there, but allegedly what happened was they set tents up on the side of the road and everybody got full body cavity searches. But back to my Ecto Magnum. The car had airbag suspension all the way around, had vertical doors on it. The original light bar was the light bar that was on the first hearse, and then I upgraded and got LEDs. It was is one of my favorite vehicles that I've ever built, and I would still have it today. But unfortunately, it met a rather embarrassing and unceremonious death. I had an old Ford truck, it's 59 Ford, battery died on it. I was leaving a store. I was like, "Oh, I got to go to my parents' house, get the charger for the Ford." Cut through this parking lot of this school that I'd cut through thousands of times, big horseshoe in front of the school. Unbeknownst to me, but knownst to the people at the school, they had built a blockade in between the horseshoe that was painted the same color as the pavement. So I didn't see it until it was too late. I slammed on brakes, wheels hit it, go up on it, and it busted the oil pan open and rotated the cam one time, spun bearings, and there she went, totaled out. I was able to strip all the stuff off of it that I needed to go on to the next Ecto, which was a Jeep Wrangler. The Jeep Wrangler had a pretty cool light bar rig that was a cage built on top that went over the roof. It was kind of inspired by the cartoon Extreme Ghostbusters, where they had modded the Ecto, where it had a similar thing. And the reason I did that is because you could loosen two bolts on the front and the whole roof rack would open up and you could take the roof off and then lower it back down without removing everything completely. And it was a pain to wire because for that to work, all the wiring for the lights were inside of the tubes. And there was one hole drilled in the bottom of the Jeep where the wires went through the tube, back out and up and in it. I got rid of that one. I traded that one in because I'd driven it to New Hampshire. We ran it in the Boston St. Patrick's Day Parade. And driving that far in a Wrangler is not fun. I am very much not a Jeep guy. I don't really off-road. Visibility is bad out of them. Rides over long distances like that aren't great. So, and at the time, the job I was working, I really needed a pickup truck. So I traded it in. I got a Dodge Ram. Dodge Ram was black. So I was like, well, I'm never going to build a Ghostbusters car out of this thing. A couple months later, I get a great idea based on a friend of mine who built a costume that was negative. So the costume was sort of a weird blue color. His proton pack was white. You take a picture of him, you flip it negative, everything's the correct color. So I did the same thing with the truck. Have a friend who has a vinyl shop. We went, flipped my foam to negative, looked at all the vinyl, got the colors right. We vinyled it out. So from a layman's viewpoint, is a black truck with like a black ghost with the blue logo on it and like black and white checks. But you take a picture of it, flip it. I even actually swapped out the lights in the light bar and put all amber in it so that when you flipped the light bar was blue. So that was a pretty cool one. A lot of people didn't get it, but it was pretty cool. And in the Dragon Con parade that year, there are several people that do videos for Dragon Con annually, specifically for the parade, and I found a couple of the guys and told them what the truck was, and so in the videos, the truck starts going by, and then the image switches to negative, so that you can see what the truck is actually doing. After that, my last Ecto so far, I may build another one, but my last one was a 2017 Subaru Outback. I bought it brand new. It had 11 miles on it. And all my life, I've heard about how reliable Subarus are, specifically the Outback, how they're great. I don't know if mine was built on a Friday or what, but that thing hit 30,000 miles and everything started to fail. I had computer issues. I had fuel delivery system issues. It was a huge, huge, huge pile. And so I traded it in and got a Dodge Challenger, which is now a General Lee. And I'm much happier with the General than I was with that particular Ecto. So one question that always comes up with Ecto building is the lights. The light laws vary wildly from state to state on what colors you can use and what circumstances you can have them in. Some states you can't have any sort of additional lights. In Georgia, you can have clear and you can run amber. Now, I had blue on all of mine except for the Dodge truck. And the way I got away with that is technically you can have it on the car as long as you don't operate it on the street. So then the question becomes, well, how can I prove that I'm not operating it on the street? I had the switch on every car that had blue lights in a place where I couldn't get to it in the driver's compartment. In the Magnum, it was underneath the rear hatch. In the Jeep, it was in the back by the final pillar. In the Dodge truck, it didn't matter because those were amber. And in the Outback, it was underneath the hatch as well. So that's how you can not necessarily get around the law, but be legal and compliant while also still being able to run it in car shows and parades.
If you're ready for your next adventure, you're gonna need the right car, and the best way to buy your next car is with the help of Premier Financial Services. The Simple Lease from Premier Financial is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You get all the benefits of a traditional loan, like the ability to accumulate equity, pay it off at any time, and they give you a perfectly easy to understand amortization table, but you also get the benefits of a lease, the low payment, the flexible terms, the low down payments, but also you get to use some certain tax benefits that leases entitle you to. They've taken great care of me, and I know they'll take great care of you, so check them out now at the link in the description below.